One of the coolest things about investing in the stock market for the long term, besides all the money you could make in the years to come, is the opportunity to build a passive income in the form of dividends. However, a lot of people may get really discouraged because they do a lot of research and see how people are making thousands of dollars every single month and then realizing that you need a lot of money to make that amount of money every single month. So I want to use this video to try to help that out by giving you an overview about how much I'm projected to make by the end of this year just through dividends, while only investing $25 every single month. I'll sprinkle in some of the companies and stocks that I invest into, along with some tips of how I pick dividend stocks to invest into and ways to track it. So let's get started. So $25 may be a lot of money. It's really subjective. It just depends on your circumstances, but it's not going to make you thousands of dollars every single month out the gate. But with time and consistently investing into the right types of companies, you can definitely get there. There's a few things you definitely want to keep in mind when you're looking into investing into dividend stocks. And the first thing is you want to make sure that you're investing into stocks that consistently pay dividends. They have a history of doing that. If you're investing a small amount every single week, like $25 or even less, then you're probably tempted to invest into a dividend paying stock with a high dividend yield. But that's not always the best thing. First of all, you want to keep in mind how much the stock costs. But second, you have to keep in mind what the company does in itself. If it's a company that you feel like may not be sustainable based off its mission statement, it's very possible that financially it's not going to be sustainable. So even though right now it may pay a high dividend yield every single quarter or every single month, you need to review the history to see if it's consistently paying that. And if you don't see any history, keep in mind that mission statement and try to decide upon yourself if you feel like that's something they can financially maintain. So you want to make sure that you're investing into companies that pay dividends and are also consistently paying dividends over a long period of time. And it may seem like a niche category of different companies, and it may seem like that's really hard to find, but you'd be really surprised about how often you go by to these different places that have a publicly traded company that pays a dividend over a long period of time. Like, for example, what companies do you think about on a regular work day from morning to the day's over?
Okay, I'm on my way to work right now and it's extremely early, and this would be around the time that I'm gonna need a lot of energy. I have just enough energy to get to work, but then once I get there, done. So I may wanna go somewhere like a Starbucks. I actually got up to my gold card at Starbucks when I started going there to study almost 3 times a week back in 2011. And what is funny is that Starbucks has been shooting its dividend up at that same period of time, 11 years. So it's definitely a company that's extremely popular and that will increase its dividends every single year, hopefully for the years to come. So think about that. Okay, so it's almost lunchtime, and normally I would try to get something a bit on the healthier side, but sometimes, I'll be honest with you, it's hard to not crave those fries from McDonald's, some of my favorites. And it makes sense when you think about the popularity of a restaurant or a fast food place like McDonald's, especially when you look at their stock portfolio, and especially when you pay attention to their dividends, which have not only been paying out to their shareholders, but have been increasing for 44 years. I don't drink soda that often, but when I do, if I go to McDonald's, there's something about that McDonald's Coca-Cola. It tastes probably the best. I don't get what they do with it, but Coca-Cola has a publicly traded stock that's been paying their dividends for almost 60 years or over 60 years, which is insane. So those are some of the companies that you want to keep in mind when you're putting your money into dividend paying stocks. Not only companies that are going to pay you dividends for the long term, but will even increase it. So the amount of money you're making every single year and every single month also increases. And thanks for coming with me on my day of work.
The second thing you want to keep in mind when you're looking into dividend paying stocks is consider investing into ETFs. ETFs, or exchange traded funds, are basically a basket full of stocks. It's really convenient and it's really easy to diversify your portfolio because every dollar you invest into an ETF gets split up into a multitude of stocks under its umbrella. So it's a really easy and convenient way to diversify your portfolio, which is actually really important because with a diversified portfolio, especially a portfolio based on dividends, you have the comfort knowing that you're going to be consistently paying dividends because the likelihood of one stock falling affecting your whole portfolio won't happen when you have a plethora of other companies to keep you afloat. For example, there's a couple of ETFs that I invest into, one being SCHD, which is the ticker symbol. It's basically an ETF that tracks about 105 of the largest dividend paying US companies. Another one called VTI, the ticker symbol again, which is basically investing into the entire stock market, virtually the entire stock market. You can't really get more diverse than that. Both of these tips will make sure not only that you have a portfolio that will consistently pay you dividends over the long term, but you have a portfolio filled with companies that also consistently increase their dividends, which means every year you're making more and more each year. And that's put me in the position that I am today, despite the fact that I've only invested $25 a week. I've been investing $25 a week for the past 3.5 years, since May of 2019, but I didn't start tracking my monthly dividend payouts and my annual payouts until 2020. So before I tell you guys how much I made this year, I'm gonna break down how much I've made over the past couple of years. And just be ready, it's a lot. Just kidding. So in 2020, my first full year of investing, I made a grand total of $77.87 in dividends. In 2021, I experienced the biggest jump I ever had in comparison to the previous year by making over double or almost double at about $144 in dividends. Now this year was a little bit weird. I had some companies that decreased their dividend yield, and actually one company that didn't pay it at all, just based off everything that's going on in the world right now. But I still am projected to get paid about $189 in dividends. Now on a side note, I do imagine my December payout being a little bit higher than what was projected. Not a lot of the companies that I invest into have declared a dividend yet, so I wouldn't know. But the reason I was able to determine about how much I'm gonna get paid in December is because I use an app called The Rich. And no, I am not sponsored by them. The Rich is a really cool investing app that you can use where you can input all the companies you invest into and your investment details, including how many shares you invest into them and the average share price. And it's something you can update over time. Of course, if you have a portfolio of 150 different companies, it's probably gonna take you a little while over the gate, but if you maintain that, then from there, all you're doing is updating periodically. So once you get that first setup out the way, it becomes a really convenient app when it comes to giving you information about your dividends, including your dividend yield in relation to your actual portfolio. It also gives you information about upcoming dividend payouts with a little calendar. It'll even tell you how much you're anticipated to make every single month and how much you're making or projected to make every single year based off your portfolio at that particular moment in time. So I use that to give me an idea of how much I'm making in December, but we'll just see what happens. One thing you also want to keep in mind is despite the fact that I only invest that much, it still helped me make almost $200 this year in passive income, which means I had to do absolutely nothing except maintain the portfolio that I have. But I also reinvest that money. So that's $200 I have extra in my pocket just for investing into those companies that I get to use to reinvest into those companies, which means I'll get paid a little bit more over time off that free money. So just like I said in the beginning of the video and probably in the middle of the video and maybe even a minute and a half ago, $25 may not be a lot to some people to invest into on a weekly basis in comparison to what others are doing. And that's something I'm building towards, and motivating people to actually invest into dividend paying stocks, even with a small amount, may be a bit harder, but I really want you guys to keep this in mind. Just give me 1 second. All right, so I tend to do a lot of my best thinking when I'm driving around. So I thought of something to tell a lot of you guys that may be really concerned and really doubtful about using up your time to invest into the stock market when you feel like you don't have a lot of money, whether you're investing $50 or $25 a week like I do, or even less. But I just want to put something in perspective, and hopefully it enlightens those of you a little bit more. So just keep this in mind. Okay, so you have the stock market, and the stock market over the past forever has increased by an average of at least 7% every single year up until this point, including with everything that has happened. So imagine if you could invest into the stock market. And as of what I said earlier, virtually you kind of can with an ETF, again, called VTI. Now, VTI specifically has actually increased over 43% over the past 5 years at this point. And again, that includes everything we've been going through for the past couple of years. And on top of that, it's a dividend paying ETF that has increased its payout by 9% from last September up until this September. So let's just say you invest in quote unquote the stock market using VTI as your investment. You invest $25 every single week. If you were to do that, you would create a dividend payout of $220 per year within the first 10 years of you investing into it. That $220 is assuming that VTI only increases by 3% every year for those 10 years rather than 43% for 5 years, which is obviously a lot more than 3% per year. And that's also considering or assuming that the dividend payout only increases by 3% every year for those 10 years rather than 9% potentially every year like it did this year. On top of that, that's also assuming that your income stays the same to the point where you're only comfortable with investing only $25 every single week. That's assuming that you don't invest more every single week, which eventually, if your income goes up, you get more sources of income, you do get promoted with your job, things of that nature, you start making more money. It only assumes that you invest $25 every single week. So the growth is there. Basically, as you start building your financial legacy in the stock market, amongst other things, while you're progressing financially in real time, then being able to have a portfolio that pays you in the thousands of dollars every single month becomes a lot more possible. It can happen a lot quicker than you might imagine, but you have to stay the course. You have to make sure you're investing into the right things and just don't get discouraged. That's the last thing you want to do. But of course, leave those comments below. Let me know how you did as far as how much you made this year in dividend payouts. What were your favorite dividend paying companies this year? Which ones paid you the most? What was your best month? And if there are any other tips I might have not mentioned, definitely leave those comments below because we all got to grow together. I appreciate you guys watching as always. And until next time, take care.